Shakeel Phinn, the Jamaican juggernaut.
Yes, sir.
How's it going?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on. I'm super happy to be here.
Yeah, we have a bit of these rival podcasts, it seems like. We had Chris Guerrero not long ago, of course, Rasamber, the main man, and look forward to talk to you about a bunch of different topics. But first and foremost, people have been asking us, why the Jamaican juggernaut? Well, like, what's the original genesis behind that nickname?
So I was training at the Grand Brothers Gym with my coach Ian, and Pierre Bernier is an announcer, famous announcer here in Montreal, and he's done a couple shows around the world, and he used to train there. So I was beginning my pro career. I didn't have a nickname yet, and he's like, "Oh, you need a nickname," and I'm like, he's like, "But it's something you don't come up with yourself. Somebody has to give it to you."
Right.
So he watched me spar a couple times. Like, you got like really like, he's like, "You like Marvel and all that stuff, like superheroes." I'm like, "Yeah, I love it. Like I love watching that stuff." So he's like, "I got you." He's like, "You really have that style of like a juggernaut." So then he messaged me on Facebook. He's like, "What about the Jamaican juggernaut?" I was like, I kind of like it, like the unstoppable force. Once I get going, I can't stop it. It's my style, right? So I say juggernaut and just add the Jamaican on top of that. So,
and that style of yours, for those people who are not as familiar, did you always feel like you were more of a juggernaut, come forward fighter, or did it change along the way?
Ever since I started boxing, like I think even like I try to emulate myself after like a Mike Tyson. I love Mike Tyson, one of my favorite fighters of all time. And just to come forward, the explosiveness, the coming forward. And big punches, So, but obviously I refined myself and learned how to box a little bit more too. But it's always been trying to break guys down and coming forward and break guys down. And I always get stronger throughout every single round. So like the way I started in round 1, I end even stronger in round 10, So like it's just a bit of a cumulative thing where that's just my style.
Was Mike Tyson your favorite fighter from the get-go? You remember watching him growing up?
So not growing up, but it was like when I played sport, I played a lot of sports, like football was mainly football, but like so when I would get ready for like football matches, I'd go on YouTube or whatever it is and watch Mike Tyson highlights to get me pumped up. So I guess you could say like he is one of my probably my favorite fighter of all time. Just his style is super great to watch. Fights ending like 1 minute, 2 minutes tops, and just great to watch. Like something like that, just watching highlight tape of just like 15 minutes straight of just pure knockouts.
So did it hurt you to see him fight Jake Paul the way it happened?
Yes, it did. But I told everybody, Mike is old. He's an old man. It is what it is. I mean, he's an old man going against a guy who knows how to box. You know what I'm saying? So he just couldn't pull the trigger. He's old. You know what I mean? Right. He made bank, but he's old. So yeah.
Okay, so where do you? There's been a lot of debate with how Jake Paul has kind of infiltrated boxing. Yeah. Forget what he's doing with MVP for the women's boxing side of it, which I think is great. But
I do too.
As a fighter, where do you stand on the marketability of a Jake Paul and fighting fighters that are not necessarily in the rankings?
Yeah. So look, we're going to what he's doing. So what he's doing for the sport is actually, he's doing some good things. He's bringing guys up, having good fighters on his undercards, and the whole MVP thing. He's doing great. The whole rise of Jake Paul, I'm not a big fan of, just because like there's a lot of guys who are grinding to get to this certain point in boxing and to make big paydays, and they just can't. Like guys who are way better than Jake Paul, but they don't have the platform that Jake Paul has, and they don't have the reach that Jake Paul has. So Jake Paul can do whatever he wants and say, I'm a boxer, but then he fights guys like a 6-year-old Mike Tyson or a Nate Robinson, a basketball player, or an Anderson Silva who's like hasn't fought MMA in like how many years, or Tyron Woodley, who's known to be a wrestler, not a striker in MMA. So it's like, I'm hating, but I mean like.
All right, so wait, did Shakeel Phinn beat Jake Paul?
Oh, I destroyed Jake Paul. That's a one-round fight.
How many fighters say that though, right? There's a big amount of pro guys who are looking at these fights like, man, I wish I get that call.
For sure, because obviously you're going to make the most money you've ever made in your life, in your career, and you get to be against one of the guys who's basically like everywhere. So then after that, you have a name for yourself, right? I think that's easy money. Easy money.
So then what about Anthony Joshua fighting Jake Paul then?
Easy money for Joshua.
So he still has his fair share of doubters in the boxing world thinking he can beat these guys.
But he's doing the right thing, because Jake Paul necessarily doesn't have to fight anybody. He can still call out. He can call out Mayweather. He can call out Canelo. He can call out McGregor. All these different guys, whatever, right, and say, I'm going to fight these guys. But then he ends up fighting an older fighter or someone who's washed up, or an old MMA fighter, another celebrity boxer, whatever, and then ends up knocking them out, So he can do whatever he wants, because everybody's still going to tune in.
That's right. And what about you, if you look at it from a dream fight perspective, because we're talking a little bit about how Jake's able to get some of these matchups that many people would consider to be kind of fantasy matchups. Yeah. If you look at the super middleweight division, is it active? Is it in the past? Do you have a dream fight that you would love to have?
For myself?
Yes.
Obviously everybody wants to fight Canelo. I would love to test myself against a Canelo. I would love to see where I stand. You know, like being ranked number 14 by WC is like, you know, like you feel like you're right there. You know, like he literally could be like, all right, I'm choosing this guy. You know, so, but you know, like if that was something that can be done, like if we could finalize a deal, I'd love to fight Canelo just to see where I'm at. And obviously I'd fight my ass off because you know, like that's what I do. I'm a fighter. Canelo, even if I can bring something back out of retirement, like an Andre Ward, you know, like an Andre Ward, I would love to see what I can do against an intellect of his level. If my pressure would be enough to beat him, you know. So I'm always trying to challenge myself in that way. So
would you say you sparred anybody who's that level in the past, or who's the best guy you've ever sparred with?
I sparred a bunch of great fighters. I sparred with, you know, like obviously one of the top middleweights right now, Christian and Billy, you know, ranked number 2 or number 1 in some places in the world. I sparred David Lemieux when, you know, like when David Lemieux was David Lemieux, you know, like one of the biggest punchers in boxing. Elliot Alvarez, Lucian Bute. I put on the gloves with everybody that's been here in Montreal. I put on Arthur Beterbiev, you know, like when he first came to Canada, when he was beating everybody up, and then Mark Ramsey calls Ian, he's like, yo, we need somebody to spar with Beterbiev. And they know I was tough, but, you know, like Beterbiev is a monster. So, like, he'd have, like, a couple different guys. I think the first time I went to a spar thing was me and another guy that they brought from Chicago. A guy was like 22-2, light heavyweight. Beterbiev comes up to me. He's like, hey, what's your weight? You know, and I say 168, and he's like, he does that and he walks off. And I was like, damn. I was like, I guess he's saying like you're too small for me, you know, because he's just been sparring and destroying guys and sending them home. So we go in first round, sparring, but then like I think after the first 20 seconds, I feel my back's against the ropes, and I didn't understand why. Like, I'm used to doing that to guys. I never had that done to me. I think it was just the aura of him coming forward. And I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. And he starts punching, and I'm like punching him back. And I'm doing pretty well. But after one round, like Mark, at that point, he switches everybody out. So he'd be like, okay, you're out, next guy in. And then it came to a point where like, okay, I was doing pretty well. He called me back for another time. And then I would do 2 rounds instead of 1 round. So it'd be 2 rounds in Shaq, and then you go out. So then it would be always switching back and forth. So he's definitely one of the hardest punchers I've ever been there with. And just like technically too, like people think like he just comes forward and like tries to tear your head off. He's a great boxer too. Like he has great timing. He's tough. And we sparred years ago, but like he's still that guy, you know, he's even better now.
That's crazy. There's a lot of big names there.
Yeah.
And when you could look at Beterbiev when he fought Bivol, then when you watched, were you surprised at all by the result of that fight?
The first fight for me was very, very close. Like I was like, damn, like it's really like a pick 'em. Like, what do you like to see better, the pressure or the guy who's just really outboxing? I thought it could have went either way. Beterbiev got it. No arguments there. The second fight, I actually had Bivol winning. I thought that Beterbiev started off extremely well, super fast. Like he doesn't usually start off that fast. But I think that Bivol held his own. I thought he was gonna get stopped at one point, and then just kind of came back and really did what he was supposed to do and really boxed him really well. And Beterbiev was getting really frustrated too at times. And then I thought at the end of the fight I had Bivol up like 2 rounds, you know. So in a very, very, very good fight, competitive fight, just like the first one. But I thought this one was just a little bit more decisive for Bivol.
Right. Yeah, and I think if they do fight a third time, it'll be very obviously interesting to see if Arthur can make those adjustments.
Yeah.
But Bivol probably would be the favorite for sure, not going into a third fight.
For sure, especially with the age factor too, right? I mean, Beterbiev is not getting any younger. He is 40 now, right? So he has that playing against him, but he's still he still will knock out anybody, 99% of the guys in a division right now. So I think he can take Bivol in the rematch, but it'll definitely be a hard fight, just like the other 2 fights.
Yeah. You talked about Billy sparring him. He's right up there for the WBC, maybe fighting an interim title at super middleweight. He wants a Canelo fight as well. How did those sparring sessions go?
Great. Same thing. When Billy came down here for the first time in Montreal from France, I was one of the first guys who got to spar with too. Great first sparring, and then from there we were really just sparring partners for years. And obviously now we don't spar because obviously it's there's something maybe in the future something can happen between me and him. So just like how it happened me and Eric. So
is it because a little bit as well now because you talked about Eric, Mark Ramsey being the coach of Mbili and Eric Bazignan, your last fight?
There you go. So I'll probably never get another call from Mark Ramsey again to spar with anybody. So.
You talked a little bit about your trainer, Ian McKillop, who you've been with, I believe, for your entire pro career and maybe most of your amateur career as well. Yeah. he believed and was very confident that the sparring sessions between you and Eric in the past would lead to you winning the pro fight when you guys faced off against each other. We're about a year away from that fight. How do you feel? How about that fight now and the result?
That's obviously a rematch that I've been very vocal about, and I've wanted since the decision came about. I think the draw was complete bullshit, and I think I deserve to win that fight pretty unanimously. Everybody said it. The commentators who are commentating on the fight, the ESPN commentators, everywhere, every comment you see on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, wherever you see me and his fight come up, it's always like something. People messaging me from Mexico, from Las Vegas, everywhere. Man, you got robbed, they fucked you, this and that, whatever. So it's definitely a rematch I would love to get. And I mean, that fight cost me a fight with Munguia, because it was three names who were up. It was basically me, Eric, and like Caleb Plant. Caleb Plant went first. I guess it didn't come to fruition. I guess money, whatever. And then I didn't know Eric was in the thing, but we had got the call like, oh, you're on the list of guys that we want from Munguia for that fight. So I was like, hey, stay in the gym, get ready. They're like, oh, September. I was like, perfect. And then then I see on Instagram, Eric versus Munguia. I was like, ah, shit. So politically, you look at the fight, it's like on paper, oh shit, Eric is the guy to fight. It just looks better on paper than fighting a guy with like 2 draws and 3 losses, so and who beat the guy that you're gonna fight now, so I feel it's just like easier fight for Munguia.
Since then, Bazian against Munguia, Bazian did very well in the early stages of that fight.
He did great, actually.
Ended up losing against Munguia. Munguia ends up then losing in a huge upset against Bruno Saras.
Crazy.
And now they're going to have their rematch on the Canelo undercard in May. Bazian is probably fighting Stephen Butler next.
Yeah, if that happens.
Right at super middleweight.
Yeah.
Do you still want the winner potentially of that fight?
I mean, look, if I can get a big fight like that, I would love that. I'd love that. I mean, cool with Stephen Butler. Me and Stephen Butler, same thing. Didn't spar throughout a long time, but I mean, look, if it makes sense, then we can do it. If he beats Eric, why not? I would love nothing more to do a big fight against another guy that I respect as well, So, and if Eric wins, same thing. I want that. I need that rematch, right? So, yeah, and it just pushes me up in the rankings too. So,
do you think Eric would be up to having the rematch against you?
I mean, it's right after the fight. Camille said, "Oh, Shaq, you proved me wrong. We got to get you that rematch." This was like right out the ring, and there was no phone calls after. The only thing I heard was like, oh, like we're on to bigger and better things now. So on their side.
Yeah. Well, I heard that one of the fighters maybe that they wanted you to fight was Osle Iglesias, who's considered the boogeyman of the division.
Yeah.
Is that something that you heard as well?
It's come up a couple times. Me and his name have been mentioned. I mean, same thing. If it makes money, it makes sense, right? The guy is a huge puncher, a super dangerous fight, but the offers that were offered weren't the best.
No, he's up there now for IBF trying to get one of those title
100%.
shots in the division. And then the other name who's in different position than you that I heard wanting to fight you, because we're talking about here local potential matchups, is Wilkins Matsir, who's considered one of the better prospects. He's still early in his career. He called you out at a press conference.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's like, what would be the point of me fighting him? That's pretty much what it is. I mean, he's not ranked higher than I am. He's not higher than I am in any part of the sport, so it doesn't really make sense for me to fight him. I mean, if you have aspiration to fight him, that's great. I mean, good for him. I mean, but if we get onto that level where, oh shit, okay, I have to actually fight him to get somewhere further in my career, then do it. But right now, it doesn't make any sense.
So to be clear, you're still really as motivated as ever, despite that result against Eric
100%.
Bazian, to get to the top of the division, and you still feel that you're physically up to any challenge, or because you do a lot of coaching, you do a lot of things outside of boxing. Was there any part of you considered maybe after the result, I'll do something else, or you're still wanting to pursue your career?
Like after the Eric fight, I was trying to get back into it right away. Things didn't promotionally. There's different kind of things business wise, like it just wasn't happening for the fights that I wanted. We're still obviously in the gym and staying active and stuff like that. Just waiting for the right opportunity too, because I had the fight in January under Doogie. It was like more of like a stay busy fight, January 31st. So I had that fight. So I didn't completely take off, whatever. So I was good to kind of stay into it against a tough guy who's been in with a lot of guys and couldn't stop him, but I won unanimously. But it was a very good fight, very good showing, and I fought here in Montreal in front of all my people, so that was fun. But yeah, so we're still trying to stay active. But there's calls out there that we're waiting for, so that's what we're waiting for, those big calls that can get like those lucrative fights.
Right. And we look forward to seeing what happens with that. If I want to take your moment, because one of the aspects I think is really cool with you is that you're also very busy, either as a coach, and not just in the boxing world, but can you explain your philosophy, or if you have any suggestions for other fighters coming up sometimes who are waiting for those pro opportunities, but it's not always for the biggest purses when you're starting out, to also develop other aspects, whether it is on social media or in your case, I believe you're not just coaching boxing, but coaching other athletics as well. So if you could elaborate on that.
I mean, look, I feel like, so me, like, I've always been like, like into like training people and stuff like that. That's something that I learned how to do through my dad, and I've been in the gym all the time. So like, I learned how to give private training, whether it be like with weights and other athletics and boxing, whatever. So it brought me that. And now, I'm running a boxing program at a gym, and it's going really well. So like, I feel like if you have to have other readies, because boxing is not everything. You can't, you're not gonna. It can't be that. It could be something that you're getting into, and you get to the highest point, but you have to have something else too, because boxing can only bring you so far, right? I mean, you can only box until a certain age. So like, after boxing, what are you gonna do, right? So you have to have some type of, either whether it be a job or whatever, something that's going to bring you something too. Like, boxing is great. It brought me a bunch of stuff, and it brought me to where I am right now. But I have to have something else to lean on too, because if I just had boxing, then I couldn't be able to take care of my family and stuff like that too. So, with the boxing coaching, the spinning coaching, and the other things that I'm into too, it just helps. When my downtime.
Is that still what you think you're going to do even when your career is over?
I mean, like, with my name in boxing, the popularity I have from the sport, and just being obviously in gyms and teaching boxing, whatever, I want to pursue that after boxing as well. Like, I want to continue teaching boxing to people, but obviously, opening up my own space at one point, whatever, and doing that and building off that, and maybe starting my own foundation and teaching boxing abroad to young kids or whatever I can do with like my knowledge, right? So
very cool, very cool. And then for those who may be hearing you coach boxing or even the spinning classes, maybe if you want to give a shout out to where you can
so I coach boxing and spinning classes at Blackout Montreal. It's a gym in Griffintown. Great gym. They have everything. Like, if you're looking for a great workout, go hit them up. And obviously my home, Donnybrook, I don't teach classes there, but I train there for my fights. And they, if you're looking for like a boxing gym that smells like boxing, the sweat, blood stains everywhere, you go to Donnybrook and Verdun. You hit them up. They just opened up a spot in the West Line as well, a little bit more bougie, but for the more bougie folks. But yeah, so Blackout, with you want to train with me, spinning and boxing, come hit me up. And then for Donnybrook, if you're looking for a little more grittiness, Verdun is your spot.
As a coach, any of the punch mitts of Rival that you recommend? Or any ones that you personally like, whether it's punch mitts or even some of the equipment you use for training?
Yeah, I mean, like, so the headgear, I think it's which one do I use all the time?
The RG2.
The RG2 is my favorite headgear. It's been my favorite headgear since probably I started almost, so like with Rival. And the gloves, the sparring gloves, I love the Guerreros. The bag gloves, I fight with the Fight Glove Guerrero gloves, which are great too. And the pads, I actually like using the paddles now.
Right.
The paddles are a little bit less, strength on the body, especially since I'm fighting now. And when you train a bunch of people, you get people who can't really punch. So then if you're coaching full time and boxing as well, it is not the best. I go into training sore from training people, so it's like, the paddles are great, but the pads, if I choose a pad, you guys used to have them, the big ones there.
Right. Well, they're coming back.
I love those. It was like the
RPM 3s for a while, and we'll be having a little bit of a revamp.
But there was one that Nico suggested to me, which I love as well. They come in like white, red, and black.
Okay. Yeah, the RPM 5s.
There you go. Those ones, sick. Yeah, like the absorption on those are sick.
There you go.
Sick. So
you heard it from Shakeel Phinn, not only the pro fighter, but the coach as well. Shaq, I have a few different questions here before wrapping up this podcast here. We let people around the offices and some of the fans as well write to us with some of these questions. One of them was something that was asked is, what's something the fans of yours or people who know you but maybe surprised to find out about you, whether it's an interest or something maybe that they don't get to see all the time, whether it's a music interest or anything like that. What would be the surprise to know about Shakeel Phinn?
Well, I got two little boys at home, right? Zaire and Xavion. Zaire being the oldest, 3 years old, and Xavion being the younger one, is 20 months, 21 months. I really enjoy their TV shows. I really enjoy their TV shows.
Yeah.
Like, I'll sing songs word for word.
Yeah.
So maybe that would be one of the fun facts about me is the dad life is real. I'm really immersed into that, and it's a really great thing with my two boys.
How's the discipline in terms of knowing when you're in camps and stuff like that, and also having the family life? Are you able to kind of do both, or do you go away really from the house when you get closer to a fight?
I feel it definitely brings an extra challenge having kids and being in camp, but my
There
bad.
you go.
Sorry,
See,
guys.
you're probably
It really brings a challenge, with the kids, but I have a great partner. My fiance, she's great. She takes care. She really takes the load when I'm in camp. I still help take care of the kids, but she really does the real work. So she's a great mother and a great partner. She really helps out a lot. So she makes it a lot easier when I'm in camp.
awesome. And what about the distractions? We want to bring up training camp and some fighters. Like, how do you make sure to stay away from the popularity that comes with being a pro fighter and a personality that's public? You see sometimes whether it's the friends or other people your age doing partying and stuff like. How do you make sure to stay away from that as an athlete?
You just gotta stay focused. Look, from the beginning when I didn't have nobody really knew who I was and stuff like that. Like, you gotta train and think the same way. That's pretty much what it is. You gotta be like, okay, nobody. Doesn't matter how known you are now and how much money you're making, whatever. Right. The grind still has to be the same because that's what got you there, right? So if I fall off the wagon now because I can be like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna go out and have a couple drinks. I'm gonna go there and party a little bit, whatever. It's not what got you there, right? This is what it brings you that, but it's not what got you there. So still stay focused, still stay tunnel vision when it comes to training and your nutrition and whatnot too. So yeah,
perfect. 2 or 3 more before I let you go, Shaq.
No stress.
Favorite sport outside of boxing?
Football, no question. Football. Right. I played football before boxing, so football.
The juggernaut is also football kind of
football,
nickname.
And I'm a fan. People might not like the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh man,
it hasn't been great, but hey, I don't jump off the bandwagon. I've been a fan of theirs since I was a kid, so I'm gonna stick with that. So the Dallas Cowboys, I'm a huge football fan.
What position did you play?
I play running back.
There you go.
Yeah.
It makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Little down the middle juggernaut. We see that in your boxing style, right?
Exactly.
And then maybe actually favorite activity to do when you're not fighting?
Favorite activity to do?
If you're not training or actively fighting, obviously.
Is eating an activity?
That's the one thing, right? How much are you at now, Shaq?
Yeah, we go. I was just preaching about nutrition. Now I'm talking about eating. I love going to try. I feel like I'm a foodie. I love food and I love to try different cuisines and stuff like that. So I got a bunch of restaurants that I want to try and whatever. Still, while maintaining my my good physique.
You can still do super middleweight going forward, not light heavyweight.
No. We're staying at super middle for sure. I can easily make the weight. I have a great nutritionist. Free promo for Luigi Melli, LTC Nutrition. He's the best. He
does a ton of MMA fighters as well, right?
And he works with Better Bev as well. So
there you go.
And
yeah, absolutely. And then that part of the weight training. So do you do a diet as soon as camp starts, or you kind of wind down towards the end of camp?
So no, we started once camp is in session, a good 8 weeks, whatever, or 6 weeks, however camp is. We start nutrition. Even a little bit before that, when I know I have a fight coming, I'll start getting back into the counting my food and eating the right things, and yeah.
Okay, well, I have you here. I got to ask you this question because fans here and people downstairs ask. Sugar Ray Leonard even talked about this before. You've heard this throughout the history of boxing. The big debate: sex during training camp. No sex? Do you not mind? Because there's a lot of people on both sides of it. Where's Shakeel stand with this?
Oh man, cameras look. Honestly, so in the beginning when I first started boxing, it was no, because I was only heard it was no this, no that, no. But I feel there's no real studies that prove that it actually does anything. So I feel Val will say it, I'm gonna say it anyway. So basically, starting my career was no, we can't do nothing. Then the more and more throughout my career, I'm it's okay. We're only 4 weeks away. Then it's oh, we're only 3 weeks away. Then we're only 2 weeks. She's every time you say that, I thought we were not supposed to do anything.
Wait, what is your trainer Ian McKillop as a former fighter himself? Does he talk to you about that?
He's talked to me about it a while back, and he says he believes it's a thing where you shouldn't, whatever. Right. But I've said to myself, man, there'll be sparring sessions where I'm hey, I just did last night. I had the best sparring session of my life. So I'm a sparring session is sometimes tougher than a fight. So I'm why am I performing a fight after doing the day before, or even the morning of, and feeling great? So not that I do it the day before a fight. Has never happened. So it's happened maybe a week
Okay.
the week of or like
Right.
the week before. Like, but I always try to say like, a week before, and then I stop the week of. I try not to do anything. So
Perfect. Well, I'll be asking fighters. That's a question people like to see where the debate stands on that. Obviously,
Yeah.
the hard-hitting questions, Shakeel. And
Yeah.
we appreciate you spending some time with us. Look
Loved
forward
it.
to
Loved
seeing
it.
the future of your career.
Yes,
and
sir.
always a fan. See you here at Rival.
Thanks, man.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Shaq.
it.